All right, as we get started today, we're going to do speed test 38. Speed drill number 38 is there in the middle of page 17. Got a multiplication box. Again, you can work horizontally or vertically, doesn't matter. Just go fast and be accurate. You're going to have 1 minute and 45 seconds to do as many of these as you can. Water bottle Bryson. Quickly Elaine turning, page 17. Do you need a different pencil? Is that one broken? Why don't you use my pencil, and then we can worry about your pencil in just a little bit. All right, minute 45. Everybody's on the right page now. Speed drill 38, and you may begin. So, all right, if you would go put your pencils off your desks, have out a pen, and exchange with the person behind you, person in the back, pass yours, and bring yours up to the front. Exchange with the person behind you, person in the back, bring yours up to the front. Sign your name as grader, if you would, please, next to where it says speed test 39. There at the bottom of speed drill 38. Sign your name next to where it says speed test 39. There at the bottom of speed drill 38. Sign your name in pen. If they get an answer wrong, just put a line through it. You don't need to write anything else there, just cross it out. At the end of each row, if you'll put the total number wrong. So at the end of each row, go and put the total number wrong. Make sure you listen carefully. I'm only going to read each answer one time. For the row beginning with the 8, your answers are 72, 56, 40, 24, 32, 88, 16, 48, 96, 64. Total number wrong at the end of the row, hopefully minus 0. Yes, ma'am?
Can you repeat it one time?
The whole row?
What did you say the first one was?
24. 8 times 3 is 24. All right, the row beginning with the 7. The row beginning with the 7. Make sure you're listening carefully. 63, 49, 35, 21, 28, 77, 14, 42, 84, 56. Total number wrong at the end of that row, and hopefully minus 0. Next row, beginning with the 12. For some of you, this was probably one of the harder ones, but let's see how we did with our 12 times tables. Your answers were 108, 84, 60, 36, 48, 132, 24, 72, 144, 96. Total number wrong at the end of that row. The row beginning with the 6, 54, 42, 30, 18, 24, 66, 12, 36, 72, 48. last row across, the row beginning with the 9, 81, 63, 45, 27, 36, 99, 18, 54, 108, 72. All right, total number wrong at the end of that row. Now figure the total number wrong on the entire speed drill, multiply by 2. They're just 2 points each. Total number wrong times 2, subtract from 100, put the score in the score blank. And then also, if you would, put it next to where it says speed drill 38 on the main page. We have just 2 more speed drills this quarter, and then we'll be done for this quarter. And then next quarter is actually our shortest quarter. There's only 10 the entire next quarter. So we've been averaging 13 or 14 of them so far each quarter. Last quarter, there are very few of them. Yes, ma'am?
So you said each one of
2 points.
2.
2 points each, yes. So total number wrong times 2. Subtract from 100, put the score in the score blank. Also on the score page, next to where it says speed drill 38. Once you got the score both places, return it to the owner, pass it forward to the person in front of you, and the person in the front take it to the back. And owners, take a look at your scores. Just wait, just be patient, she's finishing up. There you go, she knows it's there. All right. All right, how many hundreds did we have today? Hundreds. How many A's? 90 or better. All right, 80 or better. 80 or better. All right, pass those in if you would, please. And have your booklets open to page 26. Have your financial literacy supplements open to page 26. Quickly passing those in. Yesterday, we began looking at taxes, specifically tax that is withheld from your pay. As you earn it, the government takes it. And then at the end of the year, we make sure they took the right amount. What do we call the money that the government takes from your pay? Michael?
Income tax.
Income tax. Yes, we were looking at income tax yesterday and said that there's a government agency designed, set up nice and tall there, Jalen. A government agency, their purpose, their reason for existence is to make sure they get the right amount of money, in their opinion, from you as you make it. What is that group that takes the money for the government, Bryson?
IRS.
The IRS. Now, what does IRS stand for? What does IRS stand for? Kirsten?
Internal Revenue Service.
Oh, you read well. I want you on page 26. You're not looking back. I want to see what we remember. But it is Internal Revenue Service. You're correct. And we said that the Internal Revenue Service uses a lot of forms. Now, one of the first forms, when you first start a job, you have to tell your employer how much they are supposed to be taking out of your pay. You don't actually tell them a number. You just give them information. And then the government helps them figure out how much they're supposed to take from your pay every month. What is the form that helps the employer know how much to withhold from your paycheck? Jalen? W-4 form. That's the one that says, hey, here's how many, it's based on dependent children that you have. And so the government says, okay, based on how much money you're making every month and based on how many dependent children you have, this is how much we need to hold out of your paycheck every single month so you don't have a huge payment at the end of the year. Now, self-employed people. Some of you think, I might want to run my own business, be my own boss. That's great. But realize every month, if you're not sending money to the government because there's no employer doing it for you, right? You may choose to just wait. That means you better be saving up because it's going to hit you in, well, when is that date? When all the taxes must be paid. The date of doom for some. Yes, sir?
April 15th.
April 15th, tax day. And a very, very sad day. But again, assuming that the money's been withheld every single month, you should pretty much be on par for where you should have been with the taxes all year, based on the W-4 form. Now, there's another form, though, at the end of the year, technically at the end of January following the year. So we just finished 2023. Within 1 month of 2023 ending, employers have to give their employees a little form that tells them this is how much money you made, this is how much money we already took out, so that they can then report it to the government. What is the wage statement that the employer gives to the employee so that they can file their taxes? A copy, by the way, also gets sent to the IRS, so you can't fudge it because they already know, which makes you wonder, if they already know how much you owe, why do you have to file in the first place? Anyway, to give people jobs, I guess. What is that form called? Corey? Bryson.
W-2.
The W-2. What is it, Corey?
W-2.
Who gives the W-2? The boss, the employer. Okay, the employer gives the W-2 to the employee so that they know, hey, this is how much I made. This is how much we already held out of your pay. And then you use that information as well as some other various forms, and you end up telling the IRS, okay, this is how much I made from all my different sources of income. For instance, let's suppose that you work a couple different jobs. Maybe you've got a main job and you've got like a little side hustle over here where you work, some hours over there. Both employers give you W-2s. You combine all that information onto one form you send to the IRS that tells them, this is all the money I made, this is all the money that I'm supposed to pay you in taxes, this is how much money I did pay you in taxes, this is either how much I still owe you, or this is how much you owe me back because you took too much, whatever. What is that form? The form you actually use to file your taxes. And it's not a W this time. Corey remembers this one. The 1040 form. And there's all kinds of 1040 forms, right? You get in the weeds with 1040A, 1040B, 1040C, 1040EZ, which is the easy form. And that's the one I filled out back when I had to fill it out on paper when I was a little older than you, but not quite your age. But my first tax forms, I worked at lawn jobs. I mowed lawns for people in my neighborhood, and they paid me. And yes, you have to pay taxes on that. If you make more than, catch this, $400, it has to be reported. And so I made definitely more than $400, and so I had to file taxes. I filled it out on the 1040EZ form. It wasn't a hard form to fill out, but it was very depressing because I had not planned on giving the IRS, well, a large portion of what I had made. It was very sad. But anyway, I digress. But they got the 1040 forms. Those are the forms you use to send to the IRS and tell them this is how much I made and all that jazz. If you paid too much, that's a happy thing, because that means the IRS is going to owe you money. What do we call money the IRS gives you because you paid too much, Jalen? No, money that you get back. Think of it if you go to the store and you buy something and you return it. They give you money back. What do we call that when you get your money back? No, just stop. Don't look in your book. Just think. What do you call it if you get your money back? Let's say you go to the snack cart and you buy a candy bar and you're like, I don't want this anymore. I want or this candy bar was stale. I want say it again? Refund, yeah, it's a normal term, right? Don't make it hard. It's just a refund, a tax refund. If they took too much and they owe you money back, you get a tax refund, and that's happy. Now, you used a term a moment ago, adjusted gross income. That term refers to all the money you actually made. That could include all the different jobs you worked. That could include if you earned interest on a savings account over $10. The first $10 aren't taxed. But if you earn more than that, you owe taxes on that. If you had some losses from business that or cap investments, you can take that off your adjusted gross income. For instance, let's say you earned $50,000, but you had an investment that lost $1,000. Well, your adjusted gross income then is $49,000. They don't tax you on the full amount because you lost some money somewhere else. So adjusted gross income, they just make sure they're being as fair as they can be before they take your money. Thank you. Anyway, again, to be fair, we need a lot of the government programs that exist, so it's not entirely a bad thing. And Jesus, again, right, said, render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. But Jesus did not say you shouldn't pay taxes. So sometimes you'll see some right-wing extremists being like, we shouldn't have to pay taxes. Well, maybe we'd rather not, but God didn't say don't pay taxes. So make sure you're not being unscriptural there one day. Now, the government, though, doesn't actually tax a percentage of everything you make. The government instead will allow you to save a certain amount. We said if you're single, it's just you, no family, no wife and kids, no husband and kids. The first $13,850, I think it is, you don't have to pay taxes on. That's called a standard, anyone? Deduction. You don't pay on that. So literally, whatever your adjusted gross income is, how much you really made, you subtract $13,850 from that, and you pay taxes on what's left. A percentage, 10%, 12%, 22%, whatever, right? You pay taxes on that. If you are married and have kids, you get, well, just married, you don't even have to have kids, $27,700, so $13,850 for both of you. You get to take that off of your adjusted gross income, and then you pay taxes on that. Now listen, this is the income you actually pay taxes on. This is called your taxable income, because it's the income you pay taxes on. Does that make sense? Again, a lot of these terms are very self-explanatory. Adjusted gross income. Gross class refers to what you earned, right? Gross income, very first day of class. When we start talking about this, gross income is what you earn, Corey. Pay attention up here. So adjusted gross income just means they've adjusted it for other little money that you made here, or money you lost there, or money you put into a deferred retirement account like Elaine was asking about the other day. They kind of adjust the gross income to be what it really should be. That's adjusted gross income. What they tax you on, class, is your taxable income. It's what they tax you on. Does that make sense? Just think logically about it there. All right. Now, there is one more little detail that I mentioned at the end of the hour yesterday, and that is if you have children, and all of your parents do, obviously, if a person has children, the government will actually credit them as if they've paid taxes to a certain amount. So if they owe, for instance, $12,000 in taxes, but they have 3 kids. Well, maybe that's a stretch because it's not quite 3. Anyway, let's say I have 2 kids. The government will actually say, okay, we're going to credit you $2,000 for each kid. So instead of you owing us $12,000 in taxes, you only owe us $8,000 in taxes. It doesn't just lower it's not adjusting the income or anything like that. They're actually like as if you'd already paid this money to us. Yeah, it's kind of neat. So, it helps to pay for childcare. That's their thought. The government's thought is, hey, parents have a hard time paying for kids. They have educational expenses. They have food they got to feed them, housing, all of that. You know what? We're going to cut you some slack. And I think it's about $2,000 a kid that they give to parents up to a certain cap. Like, it's not like, okay, if you have 22 kids, you get $44,000 credit. Okay, it doesn't work that way. They do cap it. I think it's like at 3.5 kids or something like that. Don't ask me about the half kid. All right, question, Jalen. No, we were, what is the term, actually? I'm thinking that I didn't ask the term. Tax credit. I use the word credit. It is a tax credit, is what it's called. But that's, there's also an earned income credit for low-income earners that the government will give them a tax credit for, things like that. We're on page 26. Let's work through some problems here that I think will help this to start making a little bit more sense to you. Read number 1 for us, if you would, Joel.
Bob makes $3,600 each month before taxes. What is his gross income for the year?
I make sure when you say money, don't forget to say the word dollars. $3,600 each month before taxes. And it says, what's his gross income for the year? Joel, what would we need to do here?
Times $3,600 is 12.
Times 12. Right, $3,600 times 12. And what is his gross income going to be, Joel? All of you doing it at your seats, though.
$43,200.
$43,200. Everyone good to go on problem 1. No trouble there. All right, now, read number 2 for us, if you would, Kirsten.
Bob lives in a state without state income tax. He has $293.50 taken out of his paycheck for federal income tax each month. How much total tax is deducted from his paycheck each year?
Some states charge you income tax. Not all states do. Georgia does. Alabama does. I grew up in Florida. Florida does not. Okay, so some states do, some states don't. Bob happens to not have state income tax. He only has the federal income tax, which means he's sending money to the federal government, the United States government. Every month, it says he has how much taken out?
$293.50.
All right, so then it asks how much tax has already been deducted each year, right? It's already come out. He doesn't have to pay this. He's already paid it. Every month it comes out of his paycheck. How much tax has he already technically paid to the IRS? What do we have to do here?
Subtract.
He has $293.50 taken out of his paycheck each month. All it asks is how much tax is deducted each
year.
So all I have to do is
multiply
by 12. I'm not subtracting yet. If I were subtracting, I'd be finding the net pay. Does that make sense? I'm not finding net pay. I'm just finding how much has already come out. Every month, $293.50. So in a year, how much is taken out?
$3,522.
$3,522. So everyone see that that's how much throughout the course of the year. He didn't pay it one lump sum. But over the course of the year, good posture, Jalen, over the course of the year, he's had $3,522 taken out of his paychecks. Everyone got that? The government's already gotten this much out of him so far. Everybody good? All right? Now, Number 3, read that for us if you would. Let's go to Luciana, nice and loud.
Bob also made $22.74 in interest income from high interest savings account. This is reported on the 1099 form to the IRS. Put $50 each month into retirement account. What is his adjusted gross income?
Okay, so remember, adjusted gross income, class, is where we tweak what he actually earned to account for little things. First of all, he made some money on the side. How much money does it say he made on the side, Luciana?
$22.74.
Does everyone see that he made $22.74 in interest? That's income he made. That we need to adjust what looks like his gross income on his W-2 form. We need to adjust that a little bit. Does that make sense? But he also every month put money into a tax-deferred savings account, a retirement account. So therefore, you don't pay taxes on that yet. Every month, Luciana, he put in
$50.
every month, right? But we're looking at the year as a whole. So Luciana, how much did he put into this account throughout the year?
600.
600. How'd you get that?
That multiplied 50 times.
50 times. So does everyone see where the 600 came from? Now that gets subtracted from his adjusted from his gross income. Does everyone see that? All right, everyone comprehend. Wheels are turning. We're all understand what's going on here. I don't want to go ahead of you. I don't want to lose you. We all understand he actually earned this, plus he made this in interest. But because he put this into a retirement plan, that doesn't get taxed. That gets adjusted off. So we're going to need to go back to this adjusted gross income, add his interest earnings, but take away what he put into a retirement account. And what is his adjusted gross income?
$22,622.74.
All of you make sure you've got that number on your calculator. All of you make sure you got $42,622.74. Question.
I forgot my calculator. Can I borrow it?
You know what? You weren't even in the room when I said, who all needs a calculator? Because you were running a little bit late. You got it in time for the bell, but not in time for me to ask about calculator. All right, does everyone see where that number came from? Does that help us understand adjusted gross income a little bit? All right, now then, we need to figure out number 4, what is his taxable income? Remember, the government does not tax you on what you have earned. The government gives you a deduction, a standard deduction. Now again, if you give a ton of money to charity or your church or whatever, you might claim more of this, but most people don't. Most people just claim the standard deduction. And in number 4, it tells us Bob is single, and so he claims how much of a standard deduction, Elaine?
$13,850.
All right, what do I need to do? This is his adjusted gross income, but to figure out his taxable income, Elaine, what will I do?
$42,622.74.
Which is on the calculator right now.
Yes, and then subtract, $13,850.
Good. All of you take what was on your calculator and just subtract the $13,850. Because they're not going to tax him on this big number. They're going to make the number a little bit smaller first, then tax him on it. So what's the taxable income here, Bryson? Oh, no. We don't add tax. We don't add the deduction on. The deduction is taken off. We subtract. Oh, heavens. We don't want to pay more tax. No, we yeah, subtract that off. So try it again. Re-enter that on the calculator. Ben, what you got?
$28,772.74.
There we go. How many had in your, he's working on it over here. How many had $28,772.74? That's what he pays taxes on. Does everyone see that? All right, now, he falls into a tax bracket. Remember I talked about tax brackets yesterday? Bob's tax bracket puts him in a 12% bracket. Look at number 5 and read it for us nice and loud, Jalen.
Based on Bob's taxable income, he is required to pay 12% of his taxable income in federal income tax each year. How much tax does Bob owe?
All right. He pays 12% of this number to the federal government. Has everyone got that? He's not in the 10% bracket. He's not like really poor. He's just kind of poor. He's lower than middle class, so he's in a 12% tax bracket. How much tax does he owe? Well, how do I find it, Jalen?
You multiply 0.12 by $28,772.74.
Take his taxable income times 0.0 or times 0.12. And how much tax does he owe, Jalen?
$3,452.73.
All of this information, by the way, is going on the 1044. This is what he would literally put up to the IRS. This is what I made. This is what I made in interest. This is what went into retirement. This is what I've already paid you. This is my adjusted gross income. This is my taxable. Like literally, if you were filling out a paper form, all these numbers would end up on the 1040 form. So the IRS can see all of them. This is how much, now watch, this is how much he owes the IRS. But class, he's already paid them some money, hasn't he? How much has he already paid, class?
$3,522.
Wait a second. He's paid them $3,522, but he only owes them $3,452? Do you see he's paid them, class, more than he owes? Does everyone see that? So, what does that mean he's going to get, class?
Tax refund.
A tax refund, yes. So look at number 6. Based on number 2 and number 5, how much he's paid, how much he owes. Did Bob already pay more tax than he owes, or does he owe more tax than was already taken out of his paycheck? Well, we already said it, class. He's already paid more, right? So therefore, he's going to get a refund. Number 7 says, how much of a refund will he get? At your seats, find it. What is his tax refund going to be? And it's not a lot, admittedly. But hey, like, you know, every little bit helps. It's kind of nice. How much does he get back here? Michael?
$69.27.
How many has $69.27? Do you see, by the way, how we just worked through one little question at a time? This is how tax software does it as well. They just ask you one question at a time. Now, they do all the calculations for you. You just type in numbers and they do all the calculations for you. If you were doing it on paper, like I had to when I was first starting out, then you would write all these and you'd have a calculator and you do just what we did. Does this kind of make sense on how the tax thing works? All right, we're going to work on numbers 8 through 12 a little bit later. For now, I want you to turn the page because besides income tax, the government takes out more taxes. And these don't get refunded. This is hard and fast. There's no refund on this. Now, if you haven't paid it, they'll make sure to go get it from you. But this is just what it is. It's called FICA taxes. Page 28. FICA taxes. Oh, FICA stands for Federal Insurance Contributions Act. It's there on the 3rd line. Mark that. Federal Insurance Contributions Act. You say insurance? What in blazes is insurance? Well, when you go to the doctor, you don't always have to pay for your medical care. Insurance pays for medical care, right? Well, there's a group of people in the United States who the government takes care of. Well, there's a couple of groups. First of all, like the VA, those in the military. We the people take care of our military, our veterans, all of that, which we should. We also take care of the elderly people, something called Medicare. How many have heard of Medicare? Okay, Medicare is there for older people, and the government will take care of their health care. How does the government supposedly afford this? Well, for one thing, they don't. But how are they supposed to be able to afford this? They take my money every month. And they take money from the employer every month. Both me and Grace Christian School work together to send money based on how much I make. There's also something called Social Security. How many have heard of Social Security? This is for retired people. Once they retire, if they don't have, well, even if they do have, but you know, you're supposed to put money into retirement and save up for when you're old and can't work. The government took it upon themselves in the nobleness of their hearts to say we should help take care of the elderly people and provide for their retirement as well. The only problem is they do a horrible job of it. But that's what Social Security is. It's kind of like retirement, except there's very, very little that they give because they don't have very much and they don't keep up there. It's just very poorly run. But Social Security and Medicare are what are covered by what are called FICA taxes. Notice it's in bold, 7.65% of every paycheck, every person in the U.S. goes to FICA. But the employer also pays another 7.65% to FICA. Does that make sense? Let's take some rough numbers here. Let's suppose we have a $1,000 paycheck. Well, that means $76.50 gets taken out of the paycheck, and that goes to FICA. the boss also has to pay another $76.50 to FICA for a total of 15.3%. Does that make sense? Now, if you drop down here, the last sentence of that first paragraph, employers are also required to contribute 7.65% of each employee's paycheck to the federal government. So the government ends up getting 15.3% of every paycheck in the United States. Half from the employee, half from the employer. Does that make sense? But what if you're the boss? What if you're self-employed? You are both employer and employee. 15.3% of everything you pay yourself has to go to FICA. That's in addition to your income taxes. So anyway, that's what we're funding here. So it says there, if a person is self-employed, he's both the employer and the employee, he has to pay the full 15.3% of his paycheck. For many workers, net pay can be found subtracting income tax and FICA taxes from their gross pay. Right? So we already know income tax comes out of the gross pay. Yeah, so does FICA tax. Notice this, there's a little blurb here, and this might be changing soon. This might be changing soon. Look at the italicized thing. Read that for us, Griffin.
FICA tax is charged only the first $160,200 an employee makes in a year. Earnings above this number are not charged FICA tax, but are still charged federal income tax.
So the government decided if you're making buku bucks, we're only going to take the 7.65% of your pay up to $106,000. Once you go over $106,200, we're not going to keep taking out more FICA tax. That's about to change, I believe. A report I just saw a couple days ago says they're wanting to change that number and set it a little bit higher so the government can have a little bit more money because they're bankrupt. Pretty much. They're in deep, deep debt, and these programs are not self-funding. It also goes with the tax of the rich mentality that the one party in particular has, but I digress. Anyway, that's where we're at right now, so that's what's printed. Again, in a year from now, who knows what's going to be current for those watching on YouTube. Let's take a look at some practice problems here. And read problem number 1, if you would, for us. Corey, nice and loud.
Jody Stansack makes $35 an hour working as a dental hygienist.
Hygienist, yeah.
She works 30 hours each week on her gross pay.
All right, this goes back to, again, what we did the very first day in class. So at your seats, find your gross pay. $30 hours a week, $35 an hour. How much has she earned? What's the gross pay here? Jalen?
$1,050.
$1,050. How many had the same $1,050 for the gross pay for Jody? All right, easy enough. Let's move on to number 2. How much is going to be withheld from her weekly paycheck for Social Security and Medicare? Combined, what do we call Social Security and Medicare, class?
Insurance.
FICA tax. FICA tax. What is the percent for FICA tax, class? 7.65%. Again, 7.65%. You need to know that number. And aren't you glad you have a calculator, by the way? 7.65%. So we need to find what is her FICA tax. How much does she get withheld so she can help contribute to the FICA tax? Joel?
$80.33.
How many have the $80.33? All right, anyone having trouble getting that number, you need help. Any questions? $80.33. Everyone got it? Or no, not got it, okay? So we take 1,050 times, yeah, remember 7.65. 7.65. But it's also 7.65%. So remember, we're going to go 0.0765. 65. There we go. All right, there's the $80.33. All right. Now, in addition, again, she doesn't just have FICA withheld. The previous thing we talked about yesterday and just worked on earlier this hour, she also has to have what withheld, class? Her income tax, right? She's also getting charged income tax, not just FICA, it's both of them. And notice number 3, read this for us if you would, Ben.
If Jody also has $231 withheld
Dollars
withheld for federal income tax and $45 withheld for state income tax. How much money has the government taken from Jody's paycheck?
All right, so I told you she's got federal income tax. We said it was how much again, Ben?
$231.
Okay, and then she also has state income tax. She lives in a state that actually, which like Georgia and Alabama, which is where all of us live in this room. Okay, so state income tax was another.
$54.
Was Dexic there? $45. $45. That's all good. The question is, how much has the government actually taken? They took this, now it's different governments, granted, but they took a total of how much money from Jody that week. Just that week, how much did they get from Jody? Kirsten?
$356.33. Yeah.
You know what? Yes, $356.33. I had an incorrect number when I did my answer key. I forgot about the state income tax. So I'm like, yeah, that's right, but my answer key is wrong. $356.33. Great job. How many did better than I did? Because you remember the state income tax. All right, questions on that? So that means my next answer is going to be wrong also. So let me recalculate. How much net pay gets deposited to Jody's account? Find the answer to number 4. How much net pay does Jody end up with after the government is, and this assumes that there's no other deductions, you know, like other dues or fees or investments or contributions. How much is her net pay? Go ahead, Kirsten.
$693.67.
That's quite a difference, isn't it, class? Earned $1,050,
I got
winds up with $693.67. Yes, sir?
68.
68. Did you subtract 1,050 minus this?
Yes, sir.
Try it one more time. Plug it in one more time, because I got the same thing she got when I revamped my answer. So I tend to lean on her answer, but check again. 1,050. That's what she earned that week. That ain't what she gets to keep that week. She only keeps $693.67. How many are looking at those numbers like, shoot? Yeah,
The government.
You work a lot for the government, don't you? It's how it goes, right? And that's the more government programs, the more that the government decides, well, let's forgive all these student loans. Well, how do you expect to pay for that? You've got billions of dollars that you've given to college students to help them go through college, expecting the loans to be paid back. If you're going to forgive those, where are you going to get those billions from? Taxpayers. They're already getting this much. Can you imagine that number being that much smaller? Like every government program that gets added, the taxes have to go up. It's got to be funded somehow. And so, taxes getting higher and higher. Questions number 4. Let's move on then to number 5. Go ahead and read number 5 for us, and let's change gears. We'll leave off of Jody and talk about Anthony now and Elaine.
Anthony is a self-employed mechanic who pays his taxes at the end of each year. He is married and receives the standard tax deduction of $27,700. Last year he made $89,540 at his business. What is his taxable income?
All right, so he actually made, what was his gross pay again there, Elaine?
$89,540.
$89,540. And everybody got that as his gross pay. But you don't pay taxes on that, remember, class. The government issues a standard deduction, right? Standard deduction. And that standard deduction is, as it says here, $27,700. So that might be his gross income, but his taxable income, let's assume he has no investments or anything, interest earning accounts. His taxable income is going to be what? At your seats, find it. And we'll get this from Michael.
$61,840.
$61,840. $61,840. All right, everyone see where we got the taxable income from. You take that deduction off of the gross pay. We could call this, again, his adjusted gross income. if there was no other type of stuff, right? So we subtract the deduction, there's his taxable income. Now, look at number 6, and this is kind of scary because do you see, class, remember the last problem we worked on page 26 where the tax was 12%? Y'all remember the 12% number? But the guy was only earning on that problem, he was only earning 28,772 in taxable income, remember? So he was in the 12% bracket. This guy's making a lot more money, isn't he? So that puts him in the 22% bracket. He's middle class. He's paying 22%. So number 6 says that the federal government charges 22% tax. What is his federal income tax? They charge 22% tax because he's middle class. Oh, that's a big jump from 12 to 22. What is his tax he has to pay? Joel?
$13,604.80.
Yeah. $13,604.80. And if you're self-employed, a lot of times you're not paying those every month. You're having to set it aside to make sure you can pay it by April 15th, right? So we're going to have to pay that by April 15th. $13,604.80. Does everyone have that number? Are there any questions on that? All right. Now, number 7. Read that for us, Bryson.
Since he's self-employed, he also collects 15.3% FICA tax. Find how much he has to contribute to Social Security and Medicare.
Yeah, read the little italicized part too. This is important. Listen up and take note of this.
No, FICA is
Calculated.
calculated based on gross income.
Not taxable income. You don't pay 15.3% of the taxable number. You pay 15.3%. Again, normal people at 7.65, remember. But he's self-employed. He's paying the full 15.3. So we're going to have to go back to the adjusted gross income number. 15.3% of that. How much is he paying in FICA tax? Take a moment, multiply it out. Corey's got it. Wait just a second, Corey. What's his FICA?
$2,081.
Corey, what is the percent FICA tax?
0.153.
0.153. But remember, we charge the FICA tax on his gross income. That's his gross income. 15.3% of that number. I think you did 15.3% of this number. We want 15, well, we don't want, the government wants 15.3% of the biggest number available. So what is that, Corey?
$13,699.62.
He ends up paying more in FICA than he does in income tax. Another huge number. All right. Number 8. This poor guy. It gets worse. All right. So read number 8 for us now, Michael.
The state taxes him 5.7% of his taxable income for state income tax. Find the state income tax.
All right. So now we need his state tax. Now the state tax class is based on the taxable income. So we're not looking at gross income for this, but the taxable income. 5.7% of that. How much does his state, let's just say it's the state of Georgia, because I think that number is Georgia's state tax, if I'm not mistaken. How much does the state of Georgia take from poor Anthony? And again, the state does need the money. They do have things they do. Okay, so taxes aren't wrong. It's just sad when you've worked so hard. Joel?
$3,524.80.
And 88 cents. All right, how many got the $3,524.88? Again, you look at the taxable income times 0.057. Taxable income times 0.057. So the question is, how much does he have to send to the IRS on or before April 15th? Well, he's sending them the income tax, the FICA tax, and the state tax. Now, technically the state tax goes to the Georgia Department of Revenue, but still, the taxes that come out. How much total tax is he paying? Find that number now. How much total tax does he end up paying here? We'll get it from Luciana when she's got it.
$40,829.30.
I don't have 40,000. I think you have this is a 13, this is a 13, this is just a 3. I think you maybe put a 1 in front of that. You should have 10,000 less than that. I got $30,829.30. How many found that that's how much tax he pays? $30,829.30. Okay, are there questions on that? Now the big answer is number 10. What was his net income for the year last year? How do we find net anything, class?
Subtract.
Subtract what?
Tax.
Subtract everything you didn't get to keep, which is this number, from what you originally earned, right? How much did he originally earn, class?
$89,540.
And how much did he not get to keep?
$30,829.30.
So, his net pay at the end of the year, he worked hard to make $89,540 to support he and his family, of which the government will graciously allow him to keep how much, Ben?
$58,710.70.
How many have the same answer? How many have this exact same answer? All right. $58,000, still a good salary. He's still taking care of his family just fine. But do you understand why there might be people in the United States who aren't huge fans of the IRS, aren't huge fans of taxes, who may be like, oh, there's a reason why some people grumble about it. Now, again, as Christians, you do what you're supposed to do. But this is interesting. And tomorrow we're going to look at this. Look at, you would please, at this number right here. Remember I told you that this taxable income right here put him in the 22% bracket? The lowest number in the 22% bracket is $61,800. Anything above this, up to like 100,000 or something, you pay 22%. If you're below that number, you pay 12%. If Anthony is smart, if he's tracking his pay, he charges his last customer of the year $100 less. If he had made this, then he would have made this. And he'd have only been taxed that. And this is actually a deterrent then. Do you see that? Like if I'm Anthony, I don't want that extra $100. Are you kidding me? Pay the 22% tax bracket? No. I'll take $100 less to save literally thousands of dollars in taxes. And people do this. Or, like Elaine asked about, I'm going to invest $100 in my retirement account to make sure I come under this number. And so people, if they're really good at watching their finances, if they understand tax brackets, they're watching to see, okay, I want to make sure I don't go over this number because that puts me in the next bracket up. It also discourages people and businesses, because businesses have tax brackets also, discourages them from maybe advancing and taking that next step because they're scared of going into the higher tax bracket. What if I don't go high enough into it to actually make it worth my while, right? So having these tax brackets actually discourages personal and business growth. Not a huge fan of it. That's getting more into economics, but I thought I'd mention that. We'll look at that more tomorrow. Your homework for this evening is to do page 29, numbers 1 to 8. Page 29, numbers 1 through 8. Page 29, numbers 1 through 8. We'll look at all of that in our lesson tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and when the bell rings, you'll be dismissed.